Have you ever sat in a quiet room, staring at the phone, wondering when it will ring? Wondering if someone will drop by, or if today will pass like so many others, silent, still, and a little too empty? If you have, you're not alone. Loneliness is something many people experience as they get older, and it's not just about missing people. It's about feeling disconnected, unseen, or even forgotten. Maybe your children have busy lives, maybe friends have moved away, or maybe the social circles you once had have slowly faded. Whatever the reason, that hollow feeling of isolation can creep in when you least expect it. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be this way. Loneliness isn't an inevitable part of aging. It's something that can be understood, managed, and even turned into an opportunity for growth, new experiences, and deeper connections. Now, I know that might sound easier said than done. After all, if making friends or staying socially engaged was simple, loneliness wouldn't be so common. But sometimes, the smallest shift in perspective can open doors you never even noticed before. It starts with understanding why this happens in the first place. Think about it, when we're younger, social connections are almost automatic. We have coworkers, neighbors, kids' school events, or even just the regular trips to the store where we see familiar faces. But as life changes, those automatic interactions become less frequent. Retirement removes daily workplace conversations, children grow up and start families of their own, and even the simple act of running errands becomes less social when we opt for online shopping or delivery services. It's not that people don't care. It's that life has a way of pulling everyone in different directions. The key isn't to wait for things to go back to how they used to be, it's to create new ways to stay connected, to bring people into your life in ways that feel natural and fulfilling. One of the first things you can do is rethink how you define connection. Sometimes, loneliness isn't just about the absence of people, it's about the absence of meaningful interactions. You could be surrounded by people and still feel lonely if those conversations don't nourish your soul. So start small. Maybe it's a weekly call with an old friend, a simple text message to someone you haven't spoken to in a while, or even a short conversation with the cashier at your local grocery store. These small interactions may not seem like much, but they add up. They remind you, and others, that connection is always within reach. Another way to break the cycle of loneliness is to explore new interests. Have you ever wanted to learn something new? Maybe a language, a craft, or even a type of dance you've always admired. When you immerse yourself in something that excites you, you naturally attract others who share that passion. And the best part? You're not just filling time, you're enriching your life. It could be as simple as joining a book club, attending a local community event, or even volunteering for a cause that means something to you. When you show up in places where people are engaged in things that matter, genuine connections form effortlessly. Now, let's talk about technology. Some people resist it, saying it's too complicated or impersonal. But in today's world, it's an incredible tool for staying connected. Whether it's video calls with family, online communities that share your interests, or even social media groups where you can interact with like-minded people, technology can be a bridge rather than a barrier, if you let it. And if you're feeling unsure about where to start, ask someone for help. A grandchild, a neighbor, or even a librarian can walk you through the basics. The effort is worth it, because once you open that door, a whole new world of connection becomes available to you. But beyond all of these steps, the most important thing is your mindset. Loneliness thrives in silence and inactivity. The more you retreat inward, the more it grows. But the moment you take a step, even a small one, toward engagement, you weaken its hold. So if you're feeling lonely, remember this, you still have so much to offer. Your wisdom, your experiences, your kindness, these are gifts the world needs. And when you share them, you don't just fill your own life with warmth, you brighten someone else's as well. Because at the end of the day, connection isn't just about other people reaching out to us. It's also about us reaching out to them. Sometimes, loneliness sneaks up on you. It doesn't always announce itself with a feeling of sadness or isolation. Sometimes it comes as boredom, as an empty afternoon stretching out ahead with no plans, no conversations, and nothing to look forward to. But here's the thing, loneliness isn't just about who is or isn't around. It's also about what's happening inside of you. It's about the way you see yourself, the way you engage with the world, and the way you choose to fill your time. Because the truth is, loneliness is not just the absence of people. It's the absence of purpose. Think about the times in your life when you felt truly alive. Maybe it was raising a family, building a career, or even just having a daily routine that gave you a sense of structure. But when those things change, when kids grow up, jobs end, and routines shift, it can feel like something is missing. And it is. But that missing piece isn't necessarily other people. It's a sense of meaning. A sense that you're waking up every day with something to do, something to look forward to, and something that matters. That's why finding purpose is one of the most powerful ways to overcome loneliness. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what purpose do I have now? Maybe you've already done all the big things in life. Maybe you feel like your best years are behind you. But that's just one way of looking at it. What if, instead, you saw this time as an opportunity? An opportunity to explore, to create, to give back in ways you never had time for before? One of the best ways to find that sense of purpose is through giving. Volunteering, mentoring, or simply being present for someone who needs support can shift your entire perspective. Because when you give, you don't just help others, you remind yourself that you still have so much to offer. And that feeling is invaluable. Have you ever noticed how good it feels to help someone? Even something as small as holding the door open for a stranger, sharing a kind word with a neighbor, or offering advice to someone younger can create a deep sense of fulfillment. That's because humans are wired for connection, and one of the strongest forms of connection is giving. So, if you're feeling lonely, ask yourself, is there a way I can help someone today? Maybe it's checking in on an old friend, writing a letter, or even offering to babysit for a young couple who could use a break. Small acts of kindness don't just make others feel good, they make you feel connected to the world around you. Another way to find purpose is to rediscover old passions. What did you love to do before life got so busy? Did you paint? Play an instrument? Garden? Write? When we're younger, we have hobbies simply because we enjoy them. But as life gets filled with responsibilities, we push them aside. Now, you have the chance to pick them back up. And if you don't have a hobby, this is the perfect time to start. Learning something new isn't just a way to pass the time, it's a way to keep your mind sharp, your creativity alive, and your days filled with something meaningful. And here's another thing to consider, loneliness isn't always about missing people. Sometimes, it's about missing yourself. Missing the version of you who was excited about life, who had things to do, places to go, and dreams to chase. But that version of you is still in there. You just have to wake them up again. Start small. Pick one thing, just one, that sparks your interest, that makes you feel even a little bit excited. And do it. Because every small step you take toward engagement is a step away from loneliness. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are people out there, right now, who would love to connect with you. Whether it's through a club, a group, an online community, or even just reaching out to an old friend, connection is always within reach. Because at the end of the day, loneliness isn't a life sentence. It's just a sign that something in your life is ready to change. And that change starts with you. Loneliness can make you feel like the world has moved on without you. It can make a quiet house feel even quieter, a long evening feel endless, and even the things you used to enjoy seem less exciting. But here's the thing, loneliness isn't a reflection of your worth. It's just a sign that something in your life needs to shift. And the good news? You have the power to make that shift. One of the simplest, yet most powerful ways to combat loneliness is by changing your daily routine. It might sound small, but the way you structure your day has a huge impact on how you feel. If your days are predictable and empty, they can reinforce feelings of isolation. But if you create moments of purpose, even tiny ones, you start to feel engaged again. Think about how you start your day. Do you wake up with something to look forward to? Or do you find yourself moving through the morning with no real direction? Something as small as having a morning ritual, making a special cup of coffee, stretching, reading something uplifting, can set a positive tone for the day. And once you're up and moving, don't just sit and let the hours pass by. Make a plan. Even if it's just a simple one. Maybe today, you take a short walk. Maybe you visit a local library or a coffee shop just to be around people. Maybe you call someone you haven't talked to in a while. The key is to introduce small moments of activity and connection into your day. Because here's the thing about loneliness, it grows in stillness. The more you sit alone, the more it convinces you that no one is there for you. But when you take action, even in small ways, you prove to yourself that life is still happening, and you are still a part of it. And speaking of being a part of something, let's talk about social connections. Because sometimes, the biggest reason for loneliness isn't that people don't care about you, it's that they assume you're okay. Your family, your friends, even your neighbors, they might not realize how much you'd love to hear from them. And sometimes, all it takes is for you to make the first move. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why should I be the one to reach out? Shouldn't they call me? And while that's a fair thought, think about it this way: what's more important, proving a point or feeling connected? A simple message, a short call, even a quick "how have you been?" can open the door to conversation. And if you don't get a response right away, don't take it as rejection. People get busy. But when you keep showing up, keep checking in, you remind them that you're still here, still engaged, and still someone they love having in their life. And if you feel like you don't have anyone to reach out to, this is the perfect time to expand your circle. You're never too old to make new friends. Whether it's joining a local class, a walking group, or even an online community, there are people out there looking for connection just as much as you are. The key is to keep your heart open. To keep saying yes to opportunities, no matter how small. Because the more you engage with the world, the more the world engages with you. And before you know it, the loneliness that once felt so heavy starts to feel a little lighter. And in its place, a sense of connection, a sense of purpose, and a reminder that life still has so much to offer. There's something powerful about small changes. The tiniest shift in your day, your mindset, or your actions can completely transform how you feel. And when it comes to overcoming loneliness, sometimes it's not about making drastic moves, it's about planting small seeds of connection, purpose, and joy, then watching them grow. Let's talk about something that often goes unnoticed: the power of helping others. When you're feeling lonely, it's easy to focus inward, to think about what you're missing, who's not calling, or how things used to be. But what if, instead of waiting for the world to come to you, you went out and gave something to the world? It doesn't have to be something big. It can be as simple as checking in on a neighbor, writing a letter to an old friend, or volunteering at a local charity. Because here's the magic of giving: it shifts your focus. Instead of thinking about what you lack, you start thinking about what you can offer. And in that shift, loneliness loses its grip. Think about a time when you helped someone. Maybe you gave advice, ran an errand for a friend, or simply listened when someone needed to talk. Didn't it feel good? That's because human beings are wired for connection, and one of the fastest ways to build connection is by being of service to others. And you might be wondering, where do I even start? Start where you are. Look around. There are so many people in need of kindness, whether it's an elderly person in your neighborhood who could use a friendly chat, a local school that needs volunteers, or even a community group looking for extra hands. Sometimes, simply showing up is all it takes. Now, another important thing to talk about is self-talk. Loneliness isn't just about being alone, it's about how you feel when you're alone. And a lot of that comes from the way you speak to yourself. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm forgotten, no one cares," or "I don't matter," those thoughts start to shape your reality. But what if you challenged those thoughts? What if, instead of assuming the worst, you started speaking to yourself the way you'd speak to a good friend? What if, when you felt lonely, you reminded yourself, I am still valuable. I am still needed. I am still capable of joy and connection. Because you are. It's not about ignoring loneliness, it's about not letting it define you. And speaking of definitions, let's redefine what it means to live a full life after 70. Some people believe that getting older means becoming invisible. That life slows down, opportunities fade, and all that's left is waiting. But that's simply not true. Your 70s, your 80s, even your 90s, these years can be some of the richest, most meaningful years of your life. Why? Because now, you have something priceless: wisdom, experience, and the ability to choose how you spend your time. Maybe there's something you've always wanted to do but never got around to. Maybe it's learning a new skill, traveling to a place you've always dreamed of, or even just rediscovering an old hobby. Loneliness often creeps in when life feels stagnant, so the best way to push it away is to keep moving, keep learning, keep exploring. And here's the thing, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Whether you take a class, join a book club, start a small garden, or even just take a different route on your daily walk, the goal is to keep life feeling fresh. Because when you fill your life with moments of joy, curiosity, and connection, loneliness starts to lose its power. And what takes its place? A sense of purpose. A feeling of belonging. And the undeniable truth that your best days aren't behind you, they're still unfolding, right in front of you. And that's the thing about life, it keeps moving. Every day is a new chance to shape your experience, to choose how you respond, and to decide what kind of life you want to live. Loneliness doesn't have to be a life sentence. It's not a permanent state. It's a feeling, and feelings can change. One of the best ways to shift that feeling is by embracing new connections. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but making friends at this age is hard. And you're right, it's not as effortless as it was when we were kids, when a simple "can I play" was all it took. But it's far from impossible. Think about the places where you already go. Maybe it's a local cafe, a park, a library, or even a community center. The next time you're there, take a look around. Are there familiar faces? Someone who seems like they enjoy the same things you do? Building connections starts with the smallest gestures: a smile, a greeting, a simple question like, "Have you been coming here long?" And yes, it might feel a little awkward at first, but isn't a little awkwardness worth it if it leads to a new friendship? And friendships don't have to look the way they used to. Maybe it's not about having a best friend you see every day, but instead a handful of people you connect with in different ways: someone you chat with on walks, a friend you exchange books with, a group you meet for a weekly activity. The more you open yourself up to connection, the more it finds you. But here's the thing, sometimes loneliness isn't just about other people. Sometimes it's about how we see ourselves. Do you ever look back on your life and feel like the best parts are behind you? That you've already had your adventures, made your mark, and now you're just passing time? If so, I want to challenge you on that. Because the truth is, as long as you're here, your story isn't finished. There are still new memories to make, new things to experience, new ways to grow. And growth doesn't have to mean something huge. It can be as simple as trying a new hobby, exploring a different part of town, or even just shifting your mindset, deciding to focus on what you have instead of what you've lost. Maybe it's time to revisit an old passion. Was there something you loved doing years ago that you set aside because life got busy? Maybe it was painting, writing, playing an instrument, or even dancing. Who says you can't pick it up again? Who says you can't start something new? The beauty of this stage of life is that there are fewer expectations. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to live by someone else's timeline. This is your time, your chapter, your chance to create a life that feels good to you. And maybe that's the most important thing of all, to realize that happiness isn't something that just happens. It's something you create. It's in the small, everyday choices you make. Choosing to wake up and appreciate the morning light. Choosing to call a friend instead of waiting for them to call you. Choosing to try something new, even if it feels a little scary. And above all, choosing to believe that you are still important, still loved, and still capable of joy. Because you are. And when you start seeing life through that lens, when you recognize that every day holds the possibility of joy, connection, and purpose, something shifts. The weight of loneliness begins to lighten. You start realizing that happiness isn't something that's dependent on other people always being there, on family calling every day, or on the past being better than the present. Happiness is in the little things. It's in the cup of tea you savor in the morning, the crisp air on a walk, the laughter you share with a neighbor, or the quiet satisfaction of finishing a book you've been meaning to read. It's in the moments when you allow yourself to be fully present, without worrying about what was or what could be. Because that's the thing about loneliness, it often thrives in the spaces where we dwell on the past or worry about the future. But when you bring yourself into the now, when you engage with the world around you, when you take an active role in shaping your day, that loneliness starts to lose its grip. Now, does that mean you'll never feel lonely again? Of course not. Loneliness is a part of being human. But the difference is in how you respond to it. Instead of letting it define you, you recognize it for what it is, a passing feeling, not a permanent state. And when it does show up, you know you have the power to do something about it. Maybe that means reaching out to someone, even if they haven't reached out first. Maybe it means stepping outside your comfort zone and joining a new activity or group. Maybe it means choosing to focus on what brings you joy, instead of what you feel is missing. And most importantly, it means remembering that you are never truly alone. Even in the quiet moments, even on the days when it feels like no one is thinking about you, you matter. Your presence in this world makes a difference. So, if you've been feeling lonely, if you've been wondering if things will ever change, I hope this has reminded you that they can. That you have more power than you think. That life isn't over just because things look different now. You still have so much to experience. So much to give. So much to enjoy. And the best part? You get to decide where to start. And maybe, just maybe, that decision starts today. Right now, in this very moment, you have a choice. You can continue to let loneliness dictate your days, or you can take a small step forward. Not a big, overwhelming change, just one small action. Maybe it's picking up the phone and calling someone, even if they haven't called you first. Maybe it's taking a walk in the park and smiling at a stranger. Maybe it's signing up for that class you've been curious about, or simply sitting down and writing about the things you're grateful for. Because every small step adds up. Every little action chips away at that feeling of isolation. And the beautiful thing is, once you start taking those steps, you begin to see the world differently. You realize that connection is always within reach, that joy can be found in unexpected places, and that the life you want isn't out of reach, it's just waiting for you to embrace it. So go ahead. Take that step. Open yourself up to new experiences, new people, new ways of finding happiness. And remember, no matter what, you are never truly alone. Because as long as you're here, as long as you're showing up for yourself, as long as you're choosing to find meaning in your days, you are connected. You are valued. You are part of something bigger than you know. And that, my friend, is something truly beautiful. That's the magic of life. It's never too late to start anew, to rewrite the story, to find joy in places you never expected. Think about it. Every day you wake up is another chance. A chance to change your perspective, to reach out, to discover something that makes your heart feel full again. Maybe it's reconnecting with an old friend, or maybe it's forming a brand new connection with someone who understands exactly what you're going through. Life has a funny way of surprising us when we least expect it. A casual conversation with a neighbor could turn into a lifelong friendship. A hobby you take up could introduce you to a community of like-minded people. Even a simple moment of mindfulness, appreciating the warmth of the sun on your skin, the taste of your morning coffee, can remind you that there is still so much to be grateful for. The truth is, loneliness isn't always about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected. And the best way to overcome that feeling isn't by waiting for someone else to fill the gap, it's by taking small, intentional steps to reconnect with the world around you. Because when you do, you'll realize that happiness was never gone. It was just waiting for you to find it again. And isn't that a beautiful thought? That happiness isn't something you have to chase, it's something you create. Maybe it starts with a simple decision. A decision to step outside and take a walk in the park, to strike up a conversation with the person sitting next to you at the cafe, to say yes to an invitation instead of making an excuse. It's in these small, everyday moments that life begins to feel full again. Imagine how different things could be if you allowed yourself to embrace new experiences. If instead of dwelling on who hasn't called, you focused on the connections you can still make. There's always someone out there who needs a friend, someone who would love to hear your stories, someone who could use your wisdom and kindness. And when you start seeing the world that way, as a place filled with opportunities for connection, you will realize that loneliness isn't a life sentence. It's a phase, a moment, a feeling that can be changed with a shift in perspective and a little bit of courage. Because at the end of the day, life is too short to spend it waiting. It's meant to be lived, to be enjoyed, to be shared. And the best part? You get to decide how the next chapter unfolds. So take a deep breath and remind yourself, you are not alone. Even in moments of silence, even on days when the phone doesn't ring, you are part of something bigger. The world still has a place for you, and your presence still matters. Think about the things that once brought you joy. Maybe it was painting, gardening, writing, or dancing. Have you allowed those passions to fade into the background? It's never too late to pick them up again. Creativity has a way of filling the spaces where loneliness tries to settle. When you're creating something, whether it's a piece of art, a home-cooked meal, or a heartfelt letter, you're pouring a little bit of yourself into the world. And that energy? It always comes back to you in some way. And let's not forget the power of giving. Sometimes, the fastest way to feel less lonely is to help someone else feel less lonely. Volunteering, mentoring, even just lending an ear to a neighbor, these simple acts of kindness create bonds that remind us we are needed, valued, and appreciated. There's something deeply fulfilling about knowing that you made someone else's day a little brighter. Because life isn't about counting the calls you didn't get. It's about making each day count, in whatever way you can. And when you start living with that mindset, you'll notice something incredible. The loneliness? It begins to fade. The sadness? It makes room for joy. And suddenly, you are no longer waiting for happiness to find you, you've created it yourself. And that's the secret, isn't it? Happiness isn't something that just arrives at our doorstep, it's something we build, little by little, day by day. It's in the small choices we make, the mindset we adopt, and the way we choose to see the world around us. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a fresh perspective. Instead of focusing on who hasn't called or who hasn't visited, you decide to focus on what you can control. Maybe it's starting the day with a beautiful walk outside, feeling the crisp morning air, listening to the birds, and appreciating the simple joys of nature. Maybe it's finally picking up that book you always meant to read, or learning something new that excites you. There is so much life left to live, so many experiences still waiting for you. And the best part? You don't need permission from anyone to enjoy them. You are allowed to feel happy, even if things don't look exactly how you expected them to at this stage in life. You are allowed to embrace joy, even if people come and go. You are allowed to create new memories, even if the past ones are precious. Because, at the end of the day, your happiness isn't dependent on others. It's inside of you. And once you realize that, once you fully embrace that truth, you'll find that you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And isn't that what life is all about? And as you move forward with this newfound perspective, remember that every day is a fresh opportunity. You are not defined by the past, by the people who have drifted away, or by the moments of loneliness that may have crept in. Instead, you are defined by what you choose to do with the time you have now. Picture yourself waking up with excitement again, not for anyone else, but for yourself. Maybe it's a quiet morning with a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise and feeling grateful for another day. Maybe it's joining a community class, where you meet people who share your interests and remind you that connection is still within reach. There is beauty in this phase of life, a kind of wisdom and peace that only comes with experience. You've been through ups and downs, triumphs and heartbreaks, and yet here you are, still standing, still capable of feeling joy, still deserving of love and fulfillment. So, the next time you find yourself waiting by the phone or dwelling on the past, take a deep breath. Shift your focus. Remind yourself that you hold the power to make this stage of life meaningful. Fill your days with things that make your heart feel full, with people who uplift you, and with experiences that remind you just how much life has to offer. Because in the end, happiness isn't something we wait for. It's something we create. And you, my friend, are more than capable of creating a life that is rich, fulfilling, and truly yours. And that's the real secret, isn't it? Happiness isn't waiting for someone to call. It's not sitting by the window, hoping for a visit. It's about taking control of your own joy, your own purpose, your own sense of belonging. Imagine looking back years from now and feeling proud, not just of the past, but of how you chose to embrace the present. Imagine knowing that, instead of dwelling on what was missing, you focused on what was still possible. And there is so much that is still possible. Maybe it's picking up an old passion, something that once brought you joy but got lost in the busyness of life. Maybe it's learning something new, something you never thought you'd have the time or courage to try. Maybe it's simply finding peace in your own company, realizing that solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. You've come so far. You've lived through challenges, adapted to changes, and found strength in places you didn't know existed. This chapter of life is yours to write, and it can be filled with laughter, discovery, and deep, meaningful contentment. So, let this be the moment you decide. Decide to step forward instead of looking back. Decide to fill your life with new experiences, new connections, and new reasons to smile. The world is still full of wonders waiting for you, and your happiness is not behind you, it's right here, in the choices you make today. And as you walk this path, remember, you are never truly alone. You are valuable. You are loved. And you deserve a life that feels whole, fulfilling, and full of joy. That's the beauty of life. It keeps moving forward, offering new chances, new perspectives, and new ways to find joy. Every sunrise is an opportunity to make today different, to make it better, to embrace the small but meaningful moments that bring light into your life. It might be as simple as stepping outside and feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, greeting a neighbor with a smile, or treating yourself to something that makes you feel good. It might be calling an old friend, not to dwell on the past, but to share a moment in the present. And when those waves of loneliness creep in, because they will, from time to time, meet them with kindness. Acknowledge them, but don't let them define you. Instead, ask yourself, what can I do today that makes me feel alive? Maybe it's moving your body, stretching, dancing, or taking a walk in nature. Maybe it's diving into a book, escaping into a story that ignites your imagination. Maybe it's writing your own story, sharing your thoughts and experiences, leaving a piece of yourself for the world to cherish. You have wisdom that younger generations can't even begin to understand. You have memories, resilience, and insight that make you a valuable part of this world. So don't let loneliness convince you otherwise. The love you've given throughout your life hasn't disappeared, it still exists, and the people you've touched, and the kindness you've shared, and most importantly, within you. Keep moving forward with an open heart. Keep believing in the possibility of joy, connection, and fulfillment. Because your story isn't over, it's still being written, and the best chapters may still be ahead. And as you step into this next chapter of life, remember that happiness isn't something that just happens, it's something you create, one moment at a time. It's in the choices you make, the way you see the world, and the way you allow yourself to embrace the present instead of dwelling on what's missing. Maybe today is the day you try something new, something you've always wanted to do but never got around to. Maybe it's picking up a paintbrush, learning a new language, or taking a class just for the fun of it. It doesn't have to be something grand, it just has to be something that excites you, that reminds you that life still has so much to offer. And don't be afraid to reach out, to put yourself in situations where connection can happen naturally. Join a club, volunteer, attend a local event, places where you can meet people who share your interests. Sometimes, the best friendships start in the most unexpected places. But above all, be kind to yourself. You've come so far, experienced so much, and your journey is uniquely yours. There's no right or wrong way to move through this stage of life. There's only what feels right for you. So take a deep breath. Feel the strength inside you. And step forward with confidence, knowing that loneliness doesn't define you, your spirit does. Your laughter, your kindness, your ability to adapt and grow, that is what makes you who you are. And that is something truly beautiful. That's the beauty of this stage in life. You get to redefine what happiness means to you. It's no longer about meeting expectations or following a set path. It's about listening to your heart, doing what brings you joy, and letting go of anything that no longer serves you. Maybe it's time to revisit old passions that got lost in the busyness of life. Did you once love gardening, playing an instrument, or writing poetry? Or maybe you always wanted to try something new, dancing, photography, or even starting a small online business. Now is your chance to explore without pressure, just for the sheer joy of it. And while you're at it, don't underestimate the power of small, meaningful connections. Sometimes, a friendly conversation with a neighbor, a smile exchanged with a stranger at the grocery store, or a chat with someone at a local cafe can brighten your day in ways you never expected. The world is full of potential connections, you just have to be open to them. It's also important to take care of your well-being, both physically and emotionally. A simple daily walk, a few minutes of stretching, or just getting outside to breathe in the fresh air can do wonders for your mood. Your body and mind work together, and when you nurture one, the other follows. Most of all, remember this, you are not alone. Even in moments of solitude, even when it feels like the world has quieted down, you are still deeply connected to the memories you've made, to the people who care about you, and to the endless possibilities that still lie ahead. So keep moving forward, keep seeking joy, and keep embracing life, because there is always more to discover, more to experience, and more to love. And as you embrace this new chapter, give yourself the grace to let go of any lingering expectations. Life may not look the way you once imagined, but that doesn't mean it isn't beautiful. Sometimes, the most unexpected turns lead to the most fulfilling destinations. Think about the moments in your life when things didn't go as planned. Maybe a career path changed, a relationship evolved, or a dream shifted into something else entirely. And yet, here you are, stronger and wiser than before. The same applies now. Just because your days may feel quieter doesn't mean they have to feel empty. Find comfort in the little things, the warmth of a cup of tea in the morning, the sound of birds outside your window, the feeling of soft sunlight on your skin. These small moments, when truly appreciated, can bring immense joy. Life isn't always about the grand gestures. Often, happiness is hidden in the simplest of experiences. And if there are people you miss, don't be afraid to reach out. A message, a letter, or even a voice note can be a gentle way to reconnect. But if they don't respond the way you hope, don't dwell on it. Instead, focus on those who are present in your life, whether they are old friends, new acquaintances, or even the friendly faces you see in your community. Every day is an opportunity to create something meaningful. Whether it's learning something new, sharing wisdom with someone younger, or simply being kind to yourself, each moment matters. You have the power to shape this part of your life into something truly fulfilling. So go forward with confidence. You have lived through so much, learned so much, and have so much still to give. There is beauty in every stage of life, and this one is no exception. Keep your heart open, your spirit strong, and your eyes looking toward the possibilities ahead. Because no matter what, your life is still yours to embrace fully. That's the beauty of life. It keeps moving, offering us new chances to grow, to find joy, and to experience love in different ways. You are not defined by the people who drift away. You are defined by the richness of your own heart and the way you choose to fill your days. Maybe this is the time to rediscover passions you once put aside. Did you used to love painting? Playing an instrument? Writing stories? These are not just hobbies, they are pieces of you waiting to be rekindled. When you immerse yourself in something that brings you joy, you create a life that is naturally fulfilling, regardless of who is or isn't around. And let's not forget the power of gratitude. It might sound simple, but taking a moment each day to acknowledge what you're grateful for can shift your entire perspective. Gratitude reminds you that life still holds so much beauty, even in moments of solitude. So, as you move forward, don't focus on what's missing. Focus on what remains. Focus on what you can build, on the love you can still give, on the joy you can still experience. Because this chapter of your life, it's yours to write. And it can be just as meaningful, just as full, and just as beautiful as any other, if you let it. And that's the real secret, isn't it? Life isn't about waiting for things to go back to the way they were. It's about embracing what is and making the most of it. When your family stops calling as often, it doesn't mean you've lost your importance. It simply means that life has taken them in new directions, just as it once did for you when you were younger, raising a family, managing responsibilities, and carving your own path. But here's the thing, you still have so much to offer. Your wisdom, your kindness, your stories, these are gifts. And the more you share them, the more you attract people who appreciate them. Whether it's new friends, neighbors, or even younger generations looking for guidance, you have the power to create meaningful connections beyond just family. So instead of waiting for the phone to ring, take control. Be the one who reaches out. Start a conversation, send a thoughtful message, or invite someone for coffee. You'll be surprised how many people out there are also looking for connection. Loneliness is not just a senior experience, it's a human one. And most importantly, remember that happiness isn't something that depends on others. It's something you cultivate from within. It's in the quiet moments of gratitude, in the simple joys of a morning walk, in the warmth of a good book, in the laughter shared with a friend. It's in the choice to live fully, regardless of circumstances. Because you are not alone. You are still here, still capable of love, joy, and purpose. And that is more powerful than any phone call. And that's where the real shift happens, when you stop seeing loneliness as something that happens to you and start seeing it as an opportunity. An opportunity to grow, to rediscover yourself, to build a life that is rich and fulfilling on your own terms. Think about it, how many times in life have you adjusted to change? When you became an adult, when you started a family, when you retired. Each stage brought something new, sometimes unexpected, sometimes even difficult. But you adapted. And you can do it again. Maybe it starts with something small, like setting a new routine that brings you joy. Waking up and playing your favorite music while you make coffee. Taking a different route on your morning walk just to see something new. Smiling at a stranger in the park. These little things matter. They create momentum. They open doors. And when you start to shift your perspective, you realize that connection is everywhere. It's in the neighbor you've never really spoken to. It's in the library where a book club meets every week. It's in the community center where people come together to share their stories. But you have to take that first step. Because the truth is, loneliness is not just about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected. And the best way to fight it is to reconnect, not just with others, but with yourself. With your passions, your curiosity, your sense of adventure. You are not just waiting for life to happen to you. You are still writing your story. And there are so many beautiful chapters left to create. And here's something truly important to remember, loneliness doesn't define you. It's not a permanent state. It's a feeling, and feelings change. They shift, they pass, they evolve, especially when you take action. It's easy to think that life after 70 should slow down, that making new friends is harder, that opportunities are fewer. But the reality? Life can be as full as you decide it to be. Some of the happiest, most fulfilled people don't have the biggest families or the busiest social calendars, they have purpose. They have something that excites them, that gives them a reason to wake up in the morning with energy and joy. Maybe that's a new hobby, something you've always wanted to try but never had time for. Painting, gardening, playing an instrument. Or maybe it's something as simple as writing letters to old friends, reconnecting in a way that feels meaningful. Sometimes, all it takes is shifting your focus from what's missing to what's possible. Instead of thinking, I wish my kids called more, try asking, who can I reach out to today? Instead of I feel invisible, try saying, I have so much wisdom and experience to share. Because you do. Loneliness loses its power when you take control. When you step outside, when you engage, when you show up for yourself and the world around you. And the beauty of it all? The more you embrace life, the more life embraces you right back. And that's the secret, isn't it? Life gives back what you put into it. When you step forward, even just a little, opportunities start appearing. The right people cross your path. The small joys become bigger. And suddenly, what once felt like an empty space in your life starts filling up, with laughter, with connection, with purpose. It's not about waiting for someone to reach out. It's about taking that first step, even if it's just a smile to a stranger on a morning walk, a short phone call to an old friend, or a decision to try something new. Every little action adds up. And most importantly, never forget that you matter. Your presence, your experiences, your kindness, these things have an impact, whether you see it immediately or not. You are never truly alone because the world is still full of people who would love to know you, who would benefit from your wisdom, who would be grateful for your friendship. So, take that step. Open the door. Let the world back in. And before you know it, loneliness will be nothing more than a distant memory. Because life after 70? It's still yours to live, and it's still filled with endless possibilities. And here's something truly beautiful to remember: connection isn't just about other people. It starts with you. The relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for everything else. When you embrace who you are, where you've been, and where you're going, you radiate a kind of energy that draws the right people toward you. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who just seems to glow from within? Someone who, no matter their age, carries a sense of peace and joy. It's not because their life is perfect. It's because they've decided to show up for themselves first. That's the key. Instead of waiting for someone to call, start by enjoying your own company. Treat yourself to a cup of tea in the morning while watching the sunrise. Take a moment to appreciate the small things: the sound of birds outside your window, the feeling of fresh air on your face, the warmth of a cozy blanket. These moments, when truly cherished, bring a sense of fulfillment that no outside relationship can provide. But it doesn't stop there. Once you've nurtured that inner sense of contentment, you'll naturally start seeking ways to share it. Maybe you'll join a book club, take up painting, or even start a new fitness routine. Maybe you'll volunteer at a community center or spend time mentoring someone younger. And the more you do these things, the more you realize you're never really alone. Because loneliness isn't about the absence of people. It's about the absence of purpose. And when you fill your life with things that bring you joy, the need for constant validation from others starts to fade. So, what's something you've always wanted to do but never made time for? What's one small step you can take today to reconnect with yourself, with life, and with the world around you? Whatever it is, start now. Because your best days aren't behind you. They're still waiting to be lived. And that's the truth, isn't it? Life doesn't stop just because circumstances change. It evolves, and so do we. The key to overcoming loneliness after 70, or at any age, is recognizing that fulfillment isn't something we wait for. It's something we create. Think about the happiest moments of your life. Were they all centered around other people? Or were there times when you felt completely at peace, even on your own? Maybe it was a quiet morning with a good book, a walk through a park, or simply sitting in a favorite chair, lost in thought. That feeling of contentment, that's what we're after. And the good news is, it's something you can cultivate every single day. One of the most powerful ways to do that is by embracing curiosity. Yes, curiosity. It keeps the mind young, the heart open, and the spirit engaged. What if you woke up tomorrow and decided to learn something new? A language, a musical instrument, a craft? Imagine the sense of excitement that could bring. Or what if you let yourself be amazed by the world again? Go outside and really look around. Watch the way the trees sway in the wind. Notice the colors of the sky at different times of the day. Listen to the sounds of life happening all around you. There's beauty in the smallest details, and when you start paying attention, loneliness starts to fade into the background. And let's talk about movement. Not just physical movement, but the act of staying in motion in life. A lot of people slow down after retirement, and while rest is important, too much stillness can make us feel stuck. Try adding a little more movement to your days, maybe a short walk, some light stretching, or even dancing in the kitchen while making dinner. Movement has a way of lifting our spirits in ways we don't even realize until we do it. But perhaps the most important thing of all is perspective. Loneliness can feel overwhelming, but it's not a permanent state. It's a moment, a season, and like all seasons, it changes. Sometimes, all it takes is shifting the way we see it. Instead of focusing on what's missing, focus on what's possible. Instead of longing for the past, get excited about what's ahead. Because here's the thing, life is still unfolding. There are still stories to be written, laughter to be shared, and experiences waiting for you. And you are still needed in this world. So, let's make a promise today, no more waiting for someone to call. No more dwelling on who isn't around. Instead, let's start embracing what's here, right now. Let's choose joy, adventure, and connection in all the ways we can. Because no matter what age you are, happiness is always within reach. And isn't that a freeing thought? That happiness isn't something given to us by others, it's something we build for ourselves. It's in the little moments, the choices we make every day, and the way we choose to see the world. Let's talk about something powerful, the idea of purpose. Many people think of purpose as something tied to a job or family role. But purpose isn't about what we do for others, it's about what makes us feel alive. Have you ever noticed that when you're truly engaged in something, loneliness fades away? That's because purpose fills the spaces where emptiness tries to creep in. So, how do we find purpose after 70? Start with what brings you joy. It doesn't have to be big or grand, it just has to matter to you. Maybe it's painting, gardening, writing, or helping others in some way. Maybe it's sharing your life experiences, mentoring someone younger, or finally taking time to explore things you never had time for before. One beautiful thing about this stage of life is freedom. There's no longer pressure to prove anything to anyone. No need to meet deadlines, raise children, or chase after things that don't truly matter to you. This is your time to rediscover yourself. But what about the people who say, "I don't know what I love anymore"? That's okay. Start small. Try something new, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. Go to a new place, read a book on a topic you never considered, strike up a conversation with someone unexpected. The spark of purpose often comes from exploration. And speaking of people, human connection is one of the most powerful ways to overcome loneliness. But here's the trick, it doesn't always have to come from the people we expect. Sometimes, we hold on too tightly to the idea that connection must come from family or old friends. But life constantly brings new people our way, and if we're open to it, we can form relationships in the most unexpected places. A simple smile at the grocery store, a kind word to a neighbor, a short conversation with someone at the library, these moments add up. They remind us that we are part of something bigger, that we belong to the world, even when we feel alone. If reaching out feels difficult, start small. Join a local group, take a class, volunteer somewhere that interests you. The key isn't just to meet people, it's to engage with life in a meaningful way. When you do that, connections happen naturally. And here's another thing, sometimes, the best company we can have is our own. Learning to enjoy solitude without feeling lonely is a gift. It means that no matter what happens, you always have a source of comfort within yourself. That's why it's so important to treat yourself with kindness. Do things that make you feel good, cook yourself a nice meal, listen to your favorite music, take care of your health, and celebrate your own company. You deserve joy, not just in moments, but every single day. Because here's the truth, loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected from life. And when we choose to stay engaged, to be curious, to find purpose, and to open our hearts to new experiences, loneliness loses its power. So today, take one step toward joy. It doesn't have to be big, just something that makes you feel a little more alive. Because you are here, and your story is still being written. And the best chapters? They might just be ahead of you. And isn't that a wonderful thought? That no matter where we are in life, we still have the power to shape our days, to create meaning, and to find joy in unexpected places. Because the truth is, happiness isn't something we wait for, it's something we cultivate, moment by moment. One of the most beautiful ways to embrace this stage of life is through gratitude. It might sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful. When we shift our focus from what we lack to what we have, everything changes. Have you ever noticed how, on a difficult day, even the smallest act of kindness can lift your spirits? Maybe it's the warmth of the sun on your face, the scent of fresh coffee in the morning, or a memory that brings a smile. These are the things that make life rich, yet they're so easy to overlook when we're caught up in what's missing. A great way to practice gratitude is to start each day by thinking of 3 things you appreciate. They don't have to be big, just something that makes your heart feel lighter. It could be as simple as a good night's sleep, a favorite song, or the comfort of a cozy chair. And if you write them down, even better. Because on the days when loneliness tries to creep in, you'll have a reminder that there is always something good in your life. But gratitude isn't just about looking inward, it's also about expressing it. When was the last time you told someone you appreciated them? A heartfelt thank you can brighten someone's day in ways we don't always realize. It could be the cashier at the store, a neighbor, or even an old friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Connection starts with the simplest gestures, and when we take the time to acknowledge others, we create ripples of kindness that come back to us in unexpected ways. Another key to overcoming loneliness is embracing new experiences. It's easy to fall into routines, especially as we get older. But life still has so much to offer if we're open to it. Have you ever thought about trying something completely new? Maybe learning a new skill, visiting a place you've never been, or even changing up your daily routine. Stepping outside of our comfort zones, even in small ways, can bring a renewed sense of excitement. Think about something you've always been curious about but never took the time to explore. Maybe it's painting, dancing, playing an instrument, or even learning a new language. It's never too late to start, and the process of learning itself can be incredibly rewarding. Plus, it often leads to meeting like-minded people, which naturally builds new connections. And speaking of connections, sometimes we need to take the first step. It's easy to wait for others to reach out, but the truth is, many people are feeling the same way. A simple phone call, a text message, or even an invitation for coffee can mean the world to someone else who might also be feeling lonely. If there's someone you've been meaning to reconnect with, why not reach out today? Because here's what's important to remember, you are not alone in this. Loneliness is something so many people experience, but it doesn't define who we are. What defines us is how we choose to respond to it. And when we decide to fill our days with purpose, gratitude, and connection, we create a life that feels full, no matter who is or isn't around. So, as you go through today, take a moment to appreciate something small. Try something new, even if it's just a different way of looking at the world. And remember, you are never truly alone, because you carry within you the ability to create joy, to find meaning, and to touch the lives of others in ways you may never even realize. And that's the beautiful part of life, isn't it? That no matter what changes, no matter who comes and goes, we always have the power to shape our own experiences. It's never too late to redefine what happiness looks like, to step into a new chapter with fresh eyes, and to embrace the possibilities that each day brings. One of the most empowering ways to move beyond loneliness is to rediscover a sense of purpose. Think about it. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What excites you? What makes you feel useful and needed? Having a purpose, no matter how big or small, can make all the difference in how we experience life. Maybe your purpose is found in creativity, writing, painting, gardening, or crafting. Maybe it's in giving back, volunteering at a local organization, mentoring younger generations, or simply being there for a friend who needs support. Or perhaps it's in learning, diving into a new hobby, reading about a topic that fascinates you, or even taking a class just for fun. The truth is, having something to look forward to each day can shift everything. Sometimes, finding purpose comes from looking at what we already love and finding new ways to engage with it. Have you always loved cooking? Maybe you could share your favorite recipes with family, friends, or even an online community. Do you enjoy music? Perhaps there's a group or club where you could meet others who share that passion. It's about recognizing what brings you joy and then finding ways to weave it into your daily life. And here's something important: your purpose doesn't have to be grand or life-changing. It just has to matter to you. Maybe it's as simple as tending to your garden, caring for a pet, or writing letters to loved ones. Purpose is personal, and it's what gives our days meaning, even when things feel quiet. Another key to overcoming loneliness is changing the way we think about connection. It's easy to believe that connection only comes from deep friendships or frequent social events, but in reality, meaningful moments can be found anywhere. A smile from a stranger, a small chat with a neighbor, or even a kind interaction at the grocery store, these moments remind us that we are part of something bigger. Have you ever noticed how just getting out of the house can shift your mood? Whether it's a walk in the park, a visit to a coffee shop, or a trip to the library, simply being in an environment where life is happening can make a difference. And when you open yourself up to small conversations, whether it's with a barista, a fellow shopper, or someone sitting on a park bench, you create opportunities for connection that might lead to something more. And let's talk about technology. It's never been easier to stay connected, yet many people hesitate to embrace it. If you're not comfortable with smartphones, social media, or video calls, consider taking the time to learn. There are so many resources out there, from community classes to YouTube tutorials, that can help you stay in touch with family and friends, even if they live far away. Imagine being able to video chat with a grandchild, join an online book club, or reconnect with an old friend through social media. The world is more connected than ever, and there's no reason to feel left out of it. But perhaps the most important thing to remember is this: loneliness is a feeling, not a fact. It doesn't mean you are forgotten, unimportant, or unloved. It simply means that something within you is craving connection, purpose, or change. And the good news? You have the power to answer that call. So, as you move forward, remind yourself that every day holds an opportunity for something new. A new connection, a new experience, a new way of seeing the world. You are not alone in this journey, and your life still has so much to offer. The key is to take that first step, to open yourself up to possibilities, and to believe, truly believe, that the best days aren't behind you. They are still ahead. And that belief, that quiet certainty that life still holds beautiful moments, is what keeps us moving forward. Because no matter what has changed, no matter how different things may feel, one truth remains: life is still happening, and there is always room for joy, connection, and fulfillment. Sometimes, all it takes is a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on what's missing, we can start appreciating what's still present. Instead of longing for the past, we can create new memories. And instead of waiting for someone to reach out, we can take the first step toward connection. Think about the small moments in your day that bring warmth: a cup of coffee in the morning, the way sunlight filters through your window, the sound of birds outside. These moments matter. They remind us that life is not just about big events or grand gestures. It's about the simple, everyday joys that are always within reach. Have you ever noticed how a simple act of kindness can brighten your day? Maybe it's a friendly hello from a neighbor, a compliment from a stranger, or a heartfelt conversation with a friend. These moments of connection don't have to be complicated or planned. They can happen naturally, in the most unexpected ways, if we allow ourselves to be open to them. And that's another key: openness. When we feel lonely, it's easy to close ourselves off, to assume that no one understands, that no one cares. But in reality, there are so many people out there who are looking for the same thing we are: connection, companionship, and understanding. When we take small steps to reach out, whether it's joining a group, calling an old friend, or even just smiling at someone on the street, we invite connection into our lives. Maybe you've always wanted to join a club or attend a community event but felt hesitant. Maybe you've thought about reconnecting with someone from your past but weren't sure if they'd want to hear from you. The truth is, people appreciate effort. A simple "hey, I was thinking about you" can mean the world to someone. And even if you feel a little nervous at first, remember this: most people are far more welcoming and open than we sometimes believe. And if reaching out feels overwhelming, start small. Visit a familiar place, a cafe, a park, a bookstore, and simply be present. Notice the people around you, the little interactions happening, the way life unfolds. You don't have to force anything. Just being in the world, engaging with it in whatever way feels comfortable, can make a difference. But beyond seeking connection with others, there's also something deeply fulfilling about strengthening your connection with yourself. Have you ever taken the time to really explore what brings you joy, what makes you feel alive? Maybe it's music, reading, nature, or something completely unexpected. The beauty of this stage of life is that there are no rules. You get to decide how you want to spend your time, what interests you want to pursue, and what kind of life you want to create for yourself. And that's the most empowering realization of all: you are still the author of your own story. No matter where you've been, no matter what has happened, you still have the power to shape what comes next. Loneliness doesn't define you. It's just a moment, a feeling, something that can shift with time, effort, and a willingness to embrace new possibilities. So, take a deep breath. Look around. See the beauty in the little things. And remind yourself that you are not alone, not really. Because in this vast, ever-moving world, there are always people to meet, experiences to have, and moments to cherish. And if you take just one thing from this conversation, let it be this: your life is still filled with endless potential. You are worthy of love, friendship, and happiness. And no matter what, you always have the power to create a life that feels full, rich, and deeply meaningful. And as you step into each new day, remember that every small action you take matters. Maybe today, it's as simple as sending a message to an old friend, taking a walk in a new place, or even just smiling at a stranger. These tiny steps, though they may seem insignificant at first, have the power to open doors to new experiences, new people, and new joys. It's easy to believe that the best moments of life are behind us, especially when things have changed so much. Maybe your family isn't around as often, maybe old friends have moved away, or maybe the world itself feels different from the one you once knew. But life isn't just about looking back, it's about embracing what's in front of us, about finding joy in what's still here. Think about the things you once loved, but may have set aside. Was there a hobby you used to enjoy? A passion you never fully explored? A dream that got put on hold? Now is the time to return to those things, to rekindle that spark. Because doing what you love isn't just about filling time, it's about feeling alive. It's about reminding yourself that joy, adventure, and excitement don't have an age limit. Sometimes, the hardest part is simply getting started. But once you do, you'll be surprised at how naturally happiness follows. Maybe it's picking up an old instrument, starting a small garden, or writing down your thoughts in a journal. These little acts of creativity and self-expression can bring so much fulfillment. They remind us that life isn't just about waiting for things to happen, it's about making things happen. And let's talk about something that's often overlooked: the power of gratitude. When loneliness creeps in, it's easy to focus on what's missing. But shifting your focus to what's present, to the things that bring even the smallest joy, can transform your outlook. Each day, take a moment to acknowledge something good: a kind interaction, a delicious meal, the warmth of the sun. Gratitude doesn't erase loneliness, but it does soften it. It reminds us that even in the quiet moments, there is still beauty to be found. One of the most beautiful aspects of life is that it never stops offering new experiences. No matter your age, there are always new things to learn, new people to meet, and new memories to make. Maybe you've never tried painting, or dancing, or learning a new language. Why not start now? Not for anyone else, but for yourself. For the simple joy of discovering something new. And if fear ever tries to hold you back, fear of failure, of embarrassment, of stepping out of your comfort zone, remember this: there's no such thing as doing it wrong when it comes to joy. You don't have to be perfect at something to enjoy it. You don't need to have all the answers to take a first step. Life is meant to be explored, experienced, and enjoyed, not just analyzed and worried over. So, take that step. Say yes to new opportunities. Open yourself up to the world, even if it feels a little uncomfortable at first. Because the more you do, the more you'll realize life still has so much left to offer you. And in those moments when loneliness tries to creep back in, when the quiet feels a little too heavy, remind yourself of this: you are not alone. You are part of a vast, interconnected world filled with people who, just like you, are seeking connection, purpose, and happiness. And with every small action you take, you bring yourself closer to the life you deserve. So here's to embracing the present, to rediscovering what makes you happy, and to creating a future filled with meaning, connection, and joy. Because no matter what, your story isn't over, it's still unfolding, one beautiful moment at a time. And as each day unfolds, remember that happiness isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create, something we nurture, something we choose. Even in the quiet moments, even when life feels a little slower than it used to be, there is still so much to look forward to, so much to enjoy. Maybe today, that means taking a moment to appreciate the simple things: a warm cup of tea, the sound of birds outside your window, the comfort of your favorite chair. Maybe it means reaching out to someone, even if it's just to say hello. Or maybe it means doing something for yourself, something that makes you feel good, whether it's taking a walk, listening to music, or watching an old movie that brings back happy memories. The truth is, fulfillment doesn't always come from big, life-changing moments. More often than not, it's found in the small, everyday joys, the ones we sometimes overlook. And the more we take time to notice them, the richer and more meaningful our lives become. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's that you are never truly alone. Even when the phone doesn't ring as often as it used to, even when life feels quieter than you expected, there are still people out there who care, who understand, who would love to connect with you. And sometimes, all it takes is one small step to bridge that gap: a smile, a conversation, a willingness to say, "I'm here." So, as you move forward, embrace each day with an open heart. Look for the good. Seek out moments of joy. Reach out, not just to others, but also to yourself, to the part of you that still dreams, still hopes, still believes in the beauty of life. Because no matter where you are in your journey, you still have so much to give, so much to experience, so much to enjoy. And the best part? It's never too late to start. Here's to a life filled with love, connection, and endless possibilities. Because you deserve nothing less. That brings us to the end of this conversation, but not the end of your journey. Every day is a new opportunity to find joy, to create meaningful connections, and to embrace the life that's still unfolding before you. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on what small step you can take today, whether it's reaching out to an old friend, trying something new, or simply appreciating the beauty of the present moment. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences, your insights, and what brings you happiness. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Because no matter what stage of life we're in, we all deserve to feel seen, heard, and valued. Thank you for being here, and remember, your best days are not behind you. They're still ahead, waiting to be lived to the fullest. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.